In the Tangent universe, you only know the names. This is a mantra for a series of comics put forward to writers as a challenge. The brainchild of Dan Jurgens, the Tangent universe was to give a fresh take on a world with superhumans. Writers and artists were to forget what they knew about a character and build them from scratch using only their name. Tricky enough not to be influenced by others, but it got harder as these characters had to fit into each other's storylines and plots, forming a fleshed out, entirely new world and overarching narrative, which, dare I say, is generally pretty good. I thought it would be interesting to have an overall look at this universe, maybe doing an episode on different characters or storylines, but the more I got into it, the harder it was to justify splitting it up as they're so connected with one another. Instead, let's just dive into all of it. And we're going to look at every time Tangent Universe has been published in DC. Hopefully I haven't missed anything, but let me know if I have. The Tangent comics were released on a DC imprint called Tangent Comics, unsurprisingly. The first wave, or phase, came in 1997, featuring 9 different one-shot issues, all happening within a short space of time of each other, sometimes even overlapping. Before looking at individual comics and characters, it's important to have a bit of background about the Earth we are about to look at. At the time of publishing, it was called Earth 97, and it is different both to the regular DC universe and our world. It had superheroes, sure, but far fewer than in the main universe, but it is changes in key 20th century history that give Earth 97 a different technological, political and social outlook to what we are familiar with. So although the first phase is set in 1997, we need to head back a few decades to understand this world. The changes happen in the 1960s during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Soviets had deployed nuclear weapons on the island, and these missiles were launched, wiping out Florida and huge parts of the south coast of America. In retaliation, the states launched their own missiles at Cuba, and it was only an intervention from Atom, the first superhero, that prevented further devastation. He even stopped the Americans' bombs from reaching Cuba. At least, this is what the public think happened, but more on that later. Sadly, this horrific incident that claimed millions of lives did not bring a halt to hostilities between the Soviet bloc and America. Instead, the Cold War continued to be hot. The Vietnam War ended in 1968, with the South winning and executing Ho Chi Minh, but American forces would have another conflict immediately to deal with. The place of conflict was Czechoslovakia, where there was an active front between the two sides. In the real world, 1968 is the year of the Prague Spring, an attempt at reform through partial democratization and economic changes before the Soviets sent their troops in. On Earth 97, the Soviets unleashed Red Tornado chemical warheads on American troops, which had a devastating effect. The Atom, the hero of the Cuban Missile Crisis, was conspicuously missing throughout this conflict, but a second hero had come forward, Captain Comet. Captain Comet had tried to divert the Red Tornado warhead when they were launched again, but he died in the attempt. Luckily for America, the Czechoslovakian resistance had captured a Red Tornado warhead, and the US sends in the Metal Men, a special forces unit to retrieve the warhead. So hopefully you're still with me. We'll take a bit of a breather here to look at these Metal Men. First up we have John Holliday, codename Hawkman. Next up is Ray Quinones, aka Lobo. Francis Powell is Black Lightning, and Carl Walters is Gravedigger. Second in command is Samuel Schwartz, with Marcus Moore in charge of the group. None of this team have special powers. Back to Czechoslovakia, and the Metal Men meet up with their resistance point of contact, Raven. She leads them to the warhead, and the group are ambushed by Soviet soldiers. The official account says that Francis Powell, Black Lightning, was seriously injured in this encounter and Marcus Moore was killed. Again, we'll look at this a bit later on. The Metal Men successfully got the warhead out of the country, and the states used it as a bargaining chip, helping to end the war. What follows is relative world peace. America managed to land on the moon in 1969, just as we're familiar with, but NASA was surprised to find that Atom, who if you remember had gone missing, was already there. He'd created a place of solitude, away from prying eyes, to raise his son, who would become the second Atom. Elsewhere, the rise of superheroes had an impact on the cultural landscape of the Western world. World's Finest was created as a leading magazine focused on superhero news. The The British music invasion was led by a band called The Atomics, very similar to the Beatles, and a popular show was the Dick Van Hero show, and superheroes helped sell everything from burgers to bomb shelters. A similar impact was had on technology, creating a world much more advanced than ours. This was a foundation of what Jurgens wanted the world to feel like it had experienced real consequences from having a world with superheroes in. This history and this culture is a backdrop of all issues published, defined in a way not possible with main continuities, even after DC's resets. The sheer number of characters make it incredibly difficult. We're now going to skip ahead to the 90s to when the first phase is set, 1997, and look at some of the titles and characters individually. First up is the Atom. The Atom that is a hero in the late 90s is the third iteration, Adam Thompson, grandson of the original Atom, Arthur Thompson, who had been involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Atom is this world's equivalent of Superman and arguably the most powerful hero on the planet. He can fly, has super speed, durability and strength. Add to that intangibility and the power to control the density of matter, and the Atom is one overpowered character. What Jurgens does, though, to make him different to Superman, is make him less sure of himself. In fact, when we're introduced to him, he's hunting down the Fatal Five to avenge the murder of his father. He defeats them except for Shadow Thief, who escapes. But this is his first outing as a hero in public. This is the outing that will turn him into not only a public figure, but a hero. Atom clashes with Shadow Thief again shortly after. After their first encounter, Shadow Thief had taunted Adam, saying he knew a secret about his grandfather, one that explained why the original Atom had never gone after him for murdering his son, even after all these years. When Adam confronts Arthur, so that's Adam confronting his grandfather, sorry I know it's confusing, when they confront each other about the truth we get some answers. But first, Shadow Thief casually launches a couple of nukes at the Thompsons after receiving an anonymous tip-off to their location. The Atom survive the blast and track Shadow Thief down, and Shadow Thief shares the truth. It had been covered up, but the original Atom, Arthur, had been the reason behind the whole disaster. Watching the news of the impending crisis, Arthur escaped his military overseers, but in a bid to help stop the looming threat, kills a guard as he flees. This guard was Shadow Thief's dad. Flying to Cuba, Soviet forces pick up Atom's movement on scanners as he flies across the sea, and they think he is a missile and respond in kind. If Arthur hadn't tried to intervene, then there would have been no nuclear disaster and millions would have survived. Adam convinces his grandfather it is time to come clean about this, and he confesses in front of Congress. This is far from the last we'll hear of these two though, but the original Atom is really the foundation of the entire universe, and it's interesting to have chosen the Atom rather than Superman to focus on. In terms of look, there's nothing too exciting about the Atom's look, but it's nice clean design. We'll catch up with both of them later on. Now it's back to the Metal Men. Most of the Metal Men story we have already looked at already, but a lot of the issue written by Ron Mars looks back at their involvement in Czechoslovakia. The story is recounted by the president to a reporter from World's Finest, Lori Lamaris. The interview takes place at the White House with a protest happening outside. I'm just adding this as it's an interesting part of the world building, which perhaps could have been expanded on. But at this point, there are never any anti-war protests. Instead, people are more concerned about the pace and extent of technology being introduced into their lives. Back inside the White House, the president is telling Lamaris about the Metal Men's involvement in the war. What gives him this authority is that this is President Samuel Schwartz, previously second in command for the Metal Men. He survived and used his heroics in the war to help win himself the presidency. Although he tells Lamaris one thing, we can see the real turn of events. He and Marcus Moore had disagreed on what to do with the Red Tornado warhead, with Marcus wanting to reprogram it to launch it at Moscow. Schwartz wanted to bring it back to the States. Raven ends up doing what Schwartz couldn't and kills Marcus and eventually becomes the First Lady. John Holliday, aka Hawkman, becomes his Chief of Staff. Again, the characters we see here in Mars's issue are going to crop up elsewhere, so we will be returning to all these characters again and again. Next on our list is Green Lantern. Green Lantern is probably one of the most interesting redesigns. Writer James Robinson makes Green Lantern a woman, but one with no name. We don't know her real identity. She looks quite different in style to the Green Lanterns we normally see. Despite the more technologically advanced world, her costume feels much older. Robinson had charged artist Williams with creating a mix of an East Asian inspired look with 1940s glamour girl. Definitely not sci-fi. This fits nicely with her powers, which are quite different from that we are familiar with, although she still relies on a Green Lantern, literally a lantern in this case. This Green Lantern is able to raise the dead, so they may come back and complete a task. It's almost like a Restless Dead type feel. Green Lantern's story is one of my favourite, and it is a mini anthology, with her raising the deceased Captain Comet, remember he died trying to disable the Red Tornado warheads, King Faraday and Captain Boomerang for one final mission each. Expect stories of family, revenge and mystery. We're not going to dive into those specific stories here because they don't impact the rest of the Tangent universe, but unlike the other characters, Green Lantern addresses the reader directly here. It's quite a change of pace and style from the rest of the series, making for an enjoyable standalone issue. The mystery around Green Lantern's origin and name also give her an air of intrigue. She is going to be a really important character throughout the decades we look at. So now we move on to the Flash. When creating Flash for the Tangent universe, Todd DeZargo clearly had another look at the word Flash. Obviously we associate the character with being gone in a flash or quick as a flash, but DeZargo lent more on the association with light instead. This Flash, a lady called Leah Nelson, can bend light and create solid holograms, whilst also being able to travel at the speed of light. Like the Atom, Leah is incredibly overpowered. She was born to Celeste Nelson and Terrence Kelly aboard a shuttle on the first manned mission to Jupiter. The radiation she received in the womb gave her superpowers. As an adult, Leah is a celebrity, recognised wherever she goes. This is in no doubt part to her mum pushing her towards that life, shaping her into something Leah is not sure she wants to be. Unfortunately, this comic represents a bit of a low point for me. It's far lighter and more comedic in tone than the rest of them, but lacks charm, and feel free to disagree, I felt it difficult to engage with Leah as a character. There was more effort put into making her dad into a joke, again more on him later, than fleshing out Leah. I think DeZargo could have explored the celebrity versus hero choice more, but admittedly there is only so much he can do in one issue. The costume as well feels a bit meh, but I do like her powers. I think that's a really interesting play on Flash. Up next we have Sea Devils, again sadly not a favourite of mine. Sea Devils takes a dive under the surface to look at how the deadly blasts from the nukes affected marine life. The original Sea Devils series from the 60s followed underwater adventurers. Tangent's version shows us an irradiated civilization of fish, increasing their size and strength as well as granting them intelligence. Things aren't going swimmingly for this new civilization though, as they are picked on by the surface dwellers who persecute, ridicule and even murder them with impunity. At the head of the coalition of different species is Ocean Master, who does his best to keep the fledgling society together. However, when a monstrous creature from the depths threatens to destroy them, it is his son, Redfin, who steps up, seeking out help from the surface, getting Brand, that's Brand with an E, think Legion of Superheroes, Brand weapons to destroy the creature. As mentioned, this music work wasn't one that particularly interested me. It feels very isolated in the world, as most of the other creators mention at least one or two of the other projects, but I can't remember any mentioning the Sea Devils. Now we're on to the Joker issue, and for me personally probably the character highlight for the imprint and the universe. The Joker is a woman working out of New Atlantis, built over the ruins of Atlanta. Using gag weapons and joke props, Joker is an anarchic force against injustice. This means she is just as likely to be taking out villains as she is making the police look like fools. In Carl Kessel's issue, Joker takes down the mobster Dollman, but also quells a protest against police that might have become a riot. We see that this Joker is a symbol, particularly to young people. Her allegiance is not to the status quo, but to the city and its inhabitants. The story has another character who serves the city, this time a police officer, Keel. He and Joker perform a cat and mouse game with both investigating each other. Ultimately, they both learn to respect one another, as we learn that Keel's dad pushed the button that launched the first nukes, and that Joker was the daughter of survivors. What we don't learn is who is Joker, who is behind the makeup. The final panel shows the silhouette of Joker next to masks of 3 prominent women in the story: Madame Xanadu, the owner of a VR arcade, Laurie Lamaris, the reporter from World's Finest, and Mary Marvel, a student from Atlantis University, who incidentally has run-ins with Harley Quinn. Could Joker be one of them? Or is she impersonating them? Don't worry, we will find out. Like I said, I think this is one of the best issues. Kessel and artist Matt Haley do a great job making Atlantis feel futuristic, with interesting fashion and technology abound. The key bit is contrasting Keel and Joker, both traumatised by the history of Atlantis, and their personal connections to it. They go down different routes to dealing with it. Joker's light, jovial persona, a contrast to the horror the city was part of. Her mission, though, has a depth to it. She takes affront to anyone covering up the past, making a mockery of authorities. Next up is Nightwing. At the heart of everything, behind every conspiracy, pulling all the strings, is something I've been holding back talking about. It's Nightwing. And notice I didn't say someone rather than something, because this is not a single person, but a shadowy entity. Its roots are in 15th century France, where Vandal Savage set up the Order of Saint Dumas, a sanctuary for magic users. It split into the American Nightwing and the European Meridian in the 1700s. JFK, of all people, discovered and co-opted Nightwing before his murder by Meridian. They are so secretive, even the president is unaware of their existence. Nightwing were responsible for hiding the truth about what happened in Czechoslovakia and Cuba. Leah's dad is a secret operative of theirs trying to capture Flash. They even leaked the Atom's whereabouts to Shadow Thief. In short, every shady thing going on, you can assume they are behind it. At the head of all this is, wait for it, Marcus Moore, thought dead after Czechoslovakia. He's secretly been in charge of Nightwing instead, under the code name Deadman. Ostrander's work, with Dersma teaming up for the artwork, has a very 90s look to it, and follows a group of operatives of Nightwing who've gone rogue. This includes Hex and his robot familiar Nightshade, Black Orchid with molecular reconstruction powers based on tantric energy, I repeat, tantric energy, and there's Wildcat 2, who transforms into a savage beast when their leader, Gravedigger, another of the Metal Men, says Shazam. This team of rogue agents wants to take down Nightwing, so they infiltrate the White House with the plan of telling the president everything about the shadowy group, which they do through Black Orchid entering his dreams and showing him all their secrets. Did I mention they were responsible for AIDS? She also, and there is no other way to describe this, rapes the president. Moving on though, Black Orchid is attacked by a powerful necromancer called Kairos Theophilus, aka the Creeper. Kairos is part of a group of necromancers who are actually in charge of Nightwing. There are many layers to the deception here. But, get this, Marcus, aka Deadman, had staged the whole thing using his mole in the rogue group, Gravedigger. He had engineered this scenario as a way of defeating Kairos and taking full control over Nightwing. In the end, the president finds out about Nightwing, Marcus is now top dog, and the rogue agents don't even know they were played. Ostrander and Dersma do a great job handling one of the key issues within the series. It's fun, but has those thriller elements with twists and turns. Ostrander also makes an interesting point about having magic as science-based in this universe, simply a control of energy, moving it from one form to another. Next up is Chuck Dixon's Secret Six, and boy, there is a lot squeezed into this one. An underwater explosion, similar to a nuke but with none of the effects, goes off near Cabo San Lucas. It kills a school of sea devils, but despite no one caring about them, heroes go to investigate. We see Atom and Flash head off together. Joker goes separately after dealing with Riddler, named because of his tendency to riddle people with bullets. Get it? Speaking of riddling people with bullets, we're introduced to a few new characters as well, including Manhunter, who is a merciless killer, and her sidekick robot dog. she is also on her way to investigate. Finally, we meet Spectre, a ghoulish thief, making his way through Brand Labs after steal secrets. He's apprehended by Gunther Ganz, aka Plastic Man, who works for Nightwing. Plastic Man controls this biopolymer from afar, whilst his mind is trapped in a comatose body. Ganz coerces Spectre into joining him on a mission underwater and giving up on his life of crime. So if you've been keeping count, that's 6 secretive heroes about to converge on the same place. I think we know where this is going. Starts to get a bit messy now. I think Dixon was trying to squeeze in a bit too much, but all the heroes find the Sinestro base, as in Sinestro. No idea what it stands for. Inside they find villains led by Dr. Aquidus, who was responsible for creating Red Tornado. Aquidus, who accidentally turned himself into a mass of water years ago, was planning to destroy the moon so he could have full control over the world's water. No idea what his plan was after that though. Anyway, the 6 heroes band together to defeat Aquidus and destroy his super moon killer gun, which I guess created the explosion at the beginning. Who knows? It's not important. What is important is how Atom noticed how well this team worked together and they decided to form the Secret Six. And finally, we have Doom Patrol. If Nightwing was the story that meshed the world together, Doom Patrol was the one that shook it all up again. Dan Jurgens' story starts in the far distant future of 2030. That's not that far anymore. With the world coming to an end, a young woman called Lourdes, her mother Deirdre, plus Rampage and Star Sapphire are taking off from Daylight Theoretical Laboratories in a rocket. Deirdre had predicted the end of the world and this team are going to stop it by travelling back in time. They are pursued by Atom, that's the 3rd iteration, just older, who follows them even into space as he knows what they are up to and tells them it won't work. The world explodes behind them and their ship malfunctions and crashes them into Times Square in 1997. In front of a derisive world media, Deirdre tells them of a doomed planet and the 3 key events that will trigger the end of the world. 1. A Russian spaceship explodes on the launch pad. 2. The Soviets will assassinate someone from the NSA. 3. A storm will hit New York, causing a surge and blackout, halting an experiment and destabilising the Earth's core. The media laugh and call them the Doom Patrol, with Deirdre as Doomsday. We find out that Star Sapphire used to date the original Atom and was the first person ever to be cryogenically frozen. The freezing process went wrong, causing her to be fused with her jewellery, giving her precognitive abilities, plus force field manipulation. Not a bad set of powers there. As for the others, Lourdes is known as Firehawk and Rampage is a synthetic. Essentially he's a robot. It might not surprise you, but things do not go well for Doom Patrol. They fly to the USSR to halt the explosion, but their presence causes it. They are immediately seen as a threat by the communist state, and a resulting fight sees a stray missile blow up a rocket bound for Mars. So this is the 2nd time we've had mistaken identity cause huge problems to the world. Nightwing obviously takes an interest in the Doom Patrol and sent an agent to assassinate them, but Star Sapphire's force field saves them from the explosion. The agent, who was posing as someone from the National Security Agency, is killed. In an effort to stop Nightwing stealing their ship, Star Sapphire aims her energy powers at their helicopter, misses, hits their ship and the chronal pod, opening a rift in time and space, causing a violent storm above New York. Doom Patrol are the anomaly. The final piece of the puzzle is what is the experiment that was stopped? And a penny drops for Deirdre, who remembers an experiment her dad ran when she was a child, when a strange storm affected his subterranean probe. Dr. Day predicted that terrible things would happen if the energies from that storm reached the Earth's core, transmitted by the probe. The team and Atom, who drops in to help, manage to close the rift and stop the experiment running wild. They've not changed their timeline, but in this new one, Atom will remember helping them and tell them in the future. Except when the rift was closed, the resulting explosion left Atom dazed and suffering memory loss. Easter egg spot, Grundy jeans. Solomon must be doing okay for himself in this world. Grundy jeans, worn on a Monday. The ads write themselves. So there we have it. Phase 1 is complete, and a huge congratulations if you're still with me. Some swings and misses in individual issues, but I think the world building works really well as a whole, and the Tangent universe is a nice spin on characters we know inside out. We've got a lot more to cover, like why are some of DC's big hitters not here, and who is the Joker? The first run of Tangent Comics was successful enough to deem a second round, with some returning writers and artists plus new faces joining together to build on what was previously laid out. In 1998, DC released Phase 2 of Tangent Comics, and the first one we look at is Wonder Woman by Peter David. Finally, one of the Trinity is here. Well, you might struggle to recognise this Wonder Woman as David stretches the concept. Starts with a Descartes I think not joke, and you might be thinking, oh no, we're in for a high concept thinking issue. Well, fear not. After her ship crashes into the newly opened Super Friends casino, Lori Lamaris asks the alien who she is. She replies, I am Wonder Girl. Lori queries, Wonder Girl? More like Wonder Woman? I told you it wasn't going to be a thinker. It would be remiss of me not to mention Wonder Woman's look too. I described her as an alien earlier because that's what she is. She's lime green, although it's hard to tell what's skin and what is a covering of some sort. Either way, there's not much left to the imagination, with only shoulder pads breaking up her figure. Quite a different look from the Wonder Woman we are familiar with. This Wonder Woman is from planet Gotham, where the Gothamites' genders, Element Girls and Beast Boys, are at war. Both look different from each other, and this dimorphism was a result of genetic experimenting to halt aging. In their war with one another, they used different weapons. The boys use bats, that's B-A-H-T, and the girls use arangs. Wonder Woman uses a combination of these called, you guessed it, an orang bat. Just joking, it is of course a batarang. This weapon is chosen because she was created to be a mix of both genders in an attempt to end the conflict, bringing peace and unity. Ironically, Wonder Woman did bring about some cooperation between the two groups who saw her as an abomination, sending pursuers after her in her Batwing to Earth. Wanda has a companion robot who helpfully explains a lot of this, called Wu Zed. I'm sure there is a pun in there, lost in translation. It was created to help teach Wanda how to fight, but she was easily distracted. You see, Wanda wonders a lot. Get it? Wanda is deeply concerned about her purpose and role in the universe, voicing her thoughts out loud regularly. But her really special power, other than the fighting skills, is that if she wonders hard enough, she can rewrite time, which is pretty mad. So she does this in this issue and casually removes her pursuers from existence, wrapping the story up and jetting off on her very much visible ship. So there you have it, you can base entire comics around wordplay and puns and get away with it. I'm not entirely sure why so many bits were robbed from Batman, but there we go. And speaking of Batman, we're on to another member of DC's famous trio. It's another Jurgens comic. He said this was the hardest to write as there were so many Elseworld stories already about Batman. It was difficult to come up with something original. First massive difference is the location for this Batman and issue, London. It's the first Tangent comic to have a hero based outside the US, so it might be a surprise that they chose Batman for this. Regardless, he's not the first superpowered person in the issue. Instead, that title goes to Prism, who originally is Jurgens' creation for Teen Titans. But this one looks like Spider-Girl wearing an unlockable skin, plus has similar moves. Prism is a villain trying to kidnap the scientists for King Cobra, and Batman is there to apprehend her. The visual style of Batman is strikingly different to the normal black, grey, yellow combo. This Batman wears blood red armour with purple clothing underneath. He's got the Batman recognisable skills though, easily capturing Prism, but he gets distracted by the scientist. She seems to remind him of someone. This distraction allows some security guards to get the drop on him, opening fire while Prism makes off with the scientist. We see that the security guard shots had blown Batman's head off, but he calmly picks his head up and places it back on his shoulders. Batman returns to his home, a castle, disappointed. Based on the Wonder Woman section, if you are hoping for this castle to be called Castle Tiara, you will be disappointed. It's called Castle Bat. But this castle is hidden by magic. It's his house of secrets. We discover that who we saw fighting was a vessel, an empty suit of armour for the man trapped inside the castle, doomed to never leave it. This is Sir William, a former knight for King Arthur. The scientist reminded him of his former lover, Lady Tasmere. Lady Tasmere was not who she seemed though, and Grima worm-tongued Sir William into conspiring against Arthur, raising a kingdom against him, for she was really Morgan Le Fay. Sir William comes to his senses in a final battle and slays Morgan Le Fay. Despite this, Merlin banishes him to his castle permanently. Pretty cool backstory, not very heroic. Less interesting was the modern story, which felt more like a framing device for that origin story. The gist is that Batman rescues the scientist in the end, and she isn't Morgan Le Fay. Moving on, we have Power Girl by Ron Mars. The emergence of superpowered beings left some countries falling behind, particularly with a proliferation of them in the US. China does not want to be one of those and decides to create their own. Their first breakthrough came with Supergirl, an engineered hypermuscular super being. Her extreme power was short-lived though, as she suddenly had extreme degeneration at a cellular level. This did not deter the Chinese government, who persisted with the program and improved it. That improvement was Power Girl, a new threat to the capitalist West. The US only finds out about this through the efforts of the Nixon Front, an anti-communist resistance group in China. Nixon, it turns out, had mysteriously died in a visit to China in 1973. Power Girl absolutely terrifies the US. Their two most powerful beings are, and by some distance, Atom and Flash. The American administration saw the Atom as too unstable to use as an asset. As for the Flash, too dim. They need someone to restore the balance to the West's favour, and the simplest, quickest solution, if you ignore ethics, is to steal Power Girl. President Schwartz got the band back together, mostly, and reformed what was left of the Metal Men to carry out this mission, even giving Ray implants to walk again. Of course, screw helping your friend before that, but anyway. Deep in the compound housing Power Girl, the Metal Men are helped by their contact Jade, formerly an agent of Meridian. After a bit of resistance from the Chinese forces, the Metal Men make their way to Power Girl only to find that they are not the only ones after her. Enter Nightwing, including former Metal Men Black Lightning and Gravedigger. In the following shootout, Ray is killed, his new implants failing to save him. Power Girl is also freed from her containment. Like Supergirl, Power Girl's aesthetic is almost the opposite to what we are used to. Very dark colours and pale, ghostly skin. Lack of a boob window as well. Power Girl resurrects Lobo, just because she can, and both sides plead with her to join them. Power Girl goes nah, and says she wants to do her own thing, leaving the others to flee from the approaching Chinese forces. With this, Ron Mars added one of the strongest beings in the Tangent universe. Super strength, durability, and the ability to mess with energy. What will she do next though? Who will she aid? And we're back with Tales of the Green Lantern. James Robinson came back to write about our favourite Tangent Lantern wielder. This time, he only penned the first short story, with Dan Abnett and Ostrander writing the others. All offer different origin stories to the mysterious Green Lantern. In the first, it is said that Green Lantern is Lois Lane, former adventurer and archaeologist. That is of course the late Lois Lane, who was murdered. She was hired by Playboy billionaire Booster Gold to hunt for treasure in Tampa Bay. Instead, she found the Sea Devils and was touched by their plight, warning Booster to leave them alone. Booster, displeased with this backchat, orders his henchman Kilowog to stab her. In the sea Devils take her to a castle and some sort of magic happens, turning her into the Green Lantern. She then avenges her own death, surfacing and killing Booster. The second story focuses on Manhunter and Pooch, who are fighting the undead in a Czechoslovakian graveyard. They are confronted by Darkseid, the person they had been hunting. Darkseid was known as the Butcher of the Death Camps during the war, but escaped all punishment for her crimes. Her ability to raise the dead makes her a formidable foe. Manhunter had mistakenly killed a woman previously thinking it was Darkseid, only to then find out that Darkseid was alive all along. But in the graveyard, as the undead surround them, Pooch and Manhunter gain a moment's rest in a chapel. Before them, the figure of the innocent woman Manhunter had murdered appears. It is Darkseid's twin, who promises to help Manhunter defeat her sister. Distracting Darkseid, the twin gives Manhunter the opportunity to swing a lamp at Darkseid's power orb, breaking it and defeating her. The twin picks up the lantern and gains her sister's powers and becomes Green Lantern. In our third story, Zatanna seeks a place in the Dark Circle. That's the Dark Circle of necromancers who previously had control over Nightwing, if you remember. Zatanna puts her case to the Circle, and we learn of some of the members: Ra's al Ghul, Madame Zal, Bane, Sargon. They challenge her to get the Green Lantern, who has eluded them for some time. It takes 3 years, but Zatanna finally catches up to the Green Lantern. She ambushes him, deploying her most powerful magic, but all the spells miscast and attack her instead, killing her physical body but leaving her soul alive, trapped. The Green Lantern, Jason Blood, makes her the new Green Lantern to make up for her wrongs. She must help the dead sleep quietly, so one day she might do the same. So which one do you prefer? Are any of them real? And now we have Trials of the Flash by Todd DeZargo again. It has a very similar vibe as before, with cartoonesque villainy going on. Kelly tries to capture his daughters again but fails. Nightwing, who seem to be sending Kelly on these missions to keep him busy, are actually intent on kidnapping Leah. They decide to send someone competent and send Plastic Man after her. Gans is part of the Secret Six, so tells Flash the plan, but their chat is cut short as Spectre bursts in with Nightwing agents to take them both in. It looks like Nightwing knew that Gans wouldn't go through with it, and the two are captured, despite Spectre being a part of the Secret Six. What Nightwing didn't know was that they were all in on it, and Spectre does a double cross, helping both escape Nightwing HQ. The two prisoners had been using their powers to pretend to be one another. In the fight between the three and Nightwing, it looked like Plastic Man had been killed, but instead it woke him up from his coma, retaining use of his powers. The three escaped to their Secret Six satellite orbiting the Earth. This one was better than the first Flash story, even if the twists were all a bit predictable and there was an instance of outdated ableism. What was cool was seeing Flash use her powers in different ways, like bending the lasers from the Nightwing guards' guns into a prison. And we get a bit more established about the Secret Six as well, with their secret base, similar to what we see with the Justice League. Now we are on to Mark Millar's Superman. So what's Tangent Superman going to look like then? That's right, they made him bald. And interestingly, so far as we know, there is no Clark Kent in this universe. Instead, Superman is Harvey Dent, as in normally the villain Two-Face. Harvey's start on Earth 97 is quite different though. He is born in a secret Nightwing base by a mum without powers, although his dad was said to have been covered with screaming mouths, more appearing quicker than anyone could count, which is pretty metal. Harvey, despite the audience of top military officials, is born perfectly healthy and normal. Fast forward to 1998, and Dent is now a cop. We see him trying to stop an architect, Carter Hall, from jumping off the Brand building, the tallest in the world. He fails and they both fall. Somehow Dent survives. Hall, however, is paced. After some time in hospital, Dent starts to change. His girlfriend Lola notices things in his personality and his habits. He fixes everything in the house, reads all the books, starts to read Descartes and devises a new policing system. Eventually, powers start to develop. He develops pyrokinesis, telekinesis, telepathy and premonitions. He starts to help the local community, lost cats, etc., but moved into defeating supervillains when he lost interest in that. The only thing he can't seem to solve is Lola, and the two become distant. She sleeps with friend Pieface. This isn't a very important piece of the story, it was just an odd name for Miller to resurrect, given it was a racist nickname for Thomas Kalmaku from the Green Lantern comics. Anyway, Night Force reach out to Harvey through Arlene St. George, aka Black Orchid, giving him a map of the secret Nightwing base where he will find answers about his origin. he enters the secret HQ and discovers that Professor Joseph Chill, who had been on the original Atom project, wanted to create a nation of superpowered people and gave a town of predominantly black Americans Miraclo solution. Half died in agony while the other half mutated into horrific forms. Except for Harvey. Joe Chill was put in front of the Nixon administration, promised prison before Nightwing brought down Nixon a few weeks later. On learning all of this, Harvey kills all the scientists. Returning home, Harvey makes up with Lola just as the issue ends with the world going dark. More on that in a bit. A good issue overall. I like the different style of artwork that Jackson Juice did. The Superman they both designed as well is really interesting too, but not without a bit of criticism. Miller wanted to echo Kafka's Metamorphosis, seeing a likeable man transformed by his powers, but instead he just remakes Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan. This is probably better than the original idea that focused on the man part of Superman, where creators thought about having a character who is a doctor or cop fighting for his fellow man. But this Superman will be the key character for a lot of the future issues. Another Kessel issue as he returns to write Joker, this time in The Joker's Wild. John, the cop, and his partner are attacked by an OMAC, Omega Tech Mechanoid Armoured Cop. He'd gone rogue. Joker steps in to try and save the day, but the OMAC gets up again. Atom steps in this time and rescues the trio. Both John and Atom make half-hearted attempts to catch Joker for show. They both know that she does good work, despite still being wanted by the police. Atom's appearance though does not go unnoticed, and an angry crowd show up to hurl abuse at him, thinking he might destroy everything like his grandfather, the original Atom. You have to remember that this is New Atlantis, built on the ruins of Atlanta. People are still, unsurprisingly, salty about it. Mary Marvel shows up to be mocked by Harley for missing the Joker, almost like they're never in the same room. In a glitzier part of New Atlantis, we see Madame Xanadu, who is told by her staff about the opening of the most expensive VR sim ever made, the Titanic. Xanadu guarantees they will make the next issue of World's Finest. Speaking of World's Finest, at the publisher, Lori Lamaris is using a vending machine. She seems to be the only person who knows how to use them though, except for the guy stocking them, wearing a name badge with Jordan on it. Suddenly though, the electricity goes off, not just in the publisher's building, but citywide, countrywide, worldwide. Atom had been flying overhead when his powers go too, causing him to just drop from the sky. Suddenly, he starts to emit dangerous rays. The JLA turn up to shut him down. Yup, you heard me correctly, that's the JLA. We've not met them yet, but here they are, Hunter, Chemo, and Teen Titan in the latest tech suits. They're not saving the world from villains, they are here to take down anyone with paranormal abilities. Joker battles them to free Atom, and although Joker wouldn't be on the JLA's paranormal list, she eventually gets knocked down by them anyway. But she's not out and retreats. The JLA pursue her. The janitor, who had been watching, activates Ultra Secret Emergency Plan J. Suddenly, there are 3 Jokers in 3 costumes who distract and annoy the JLA, helping everyone, including Atom, escape. The 3 Jokers return to the base with an unconscious Atom, revealing themselves to be Madame Xanadu, Lori Lamaris and Mary Marvel. Probably no surprise. I think this is a really nice take on the secret identity trope, having 3 people share it. The issue adds quite a nice bit of lore about how different heroes might be seen in different parts of the country, but most importantly, what was with that blackout. And now we are on to Nightwing : Night Force. So Ostrander and Dersma return to work together on this, and the issue immediately starts with action. Nightwing have been chasing Doom Patrol and have located them in Soviet-controlled Czechoslovakia, its agents cornering the team from the future. Nightwing are desperate to get them as they think Doom Patrol are trying to get in touch with their European rival Meridian. Nightwing do appear to have reason to worry, as Meridian operatives do show up in the form of Obsidian and Jade, who rescued Doom Patrol. Nightwing decides to send Night Force after them. Remember them from earlier? That's a group of rogue agents. they're still unaware that Nightwing know what they're up to. And the Dark Circle are active, but they are unaware of the Creeper now being controlled by Deadman. Back in Prague, and Doom Patrol are escorted to meet the true leader of the Soviet Union. Who do you think it's going to be? You can have a few guesses. Darkseid, Luthor, Bane, Penguin. Nope. It's an undead Joseph Stalin, refreshed and revitalised and rehydrated with a chalice of blood. He offers Doom Patrol sanctuary, which they refuse, attacking him, but they've got nothing on Russia's Man of Steel, particularly with his vampiric super speed, and he takes them captive. Night Force meet up with their contact, who turn out to be Jade and Obsidian. Both are actually trying to stop Stalin, so turn to their rivals. Stalin's plan was to feed Doom Patrol's soul to the KG Beast, a monstrous creature that acts like a sponge, stealing knowledge from those it consumes, then sharing it with Stalin. Night Force and Meridian descend on Stalin in an attempt to free Doom Patrol. In the chaos, Black Orchid tries to save the souls of Rampage, Firehawk and Star Sapphire by tethering them to the Earth. Instead, she melds them together with each other and the Earth, with the resulting mass becoming sentient. This causes a surge around the world that wipes out all the technology. At the centre of this wave of energy, a new being arrived. It calls itself the Ultra Humanite and proclaimed that it shall claim the Earth. In the chaos, a few escape, but Wildcat and Gravedigger are gone, as are 3/4 of Doom Patrol. Obsidian is dead and Nightshade was fried. I like this issue a lot. The stakes were high, mistakes were made, people were lost. It's another key issue with an important plot development for not only other issues, but Earth 97 as a whole. And now we're on to the final issue of Phase 2, JLA. We're now in the aftermath of the Ultra Humanite's birth and the world going offline. The Ultra Humanite has taken upon itself to sit as ruler of every nation on the planet. Nightwing, including Raven, the First Lady, think it's the work of the Soviets, but also the fault of superiors, and here they're talking about those with superpowers. They give the go-ahead for the Question, a member of the JLA, to assassinate the original Atom, shooting him dead outside Congress. The Capitol building itself is surrounded by protesters against the New World Order and the regime of the Ultra Humanite, clashing with armed guards. The Ultra Humanite is not here though, instead it is fighting the majority of Earth 97's heroes in New Atlantis. We see most of them unconscious and beaten, strewn about a wrecked battlefield as Ultra Humanite makes short work of the younger Atom and Spectre. Nightwing, instead of focusing on Ultra Humanite, decided it's a good opportunity to knock out some key players not yet involved. They send the Question against Green Lantern, Human Target to Superman, the Vigilante to face Batman, and Johnny Double to take out Wonder Woman. It doesn't go well. Superman easily overcomes Human Target's defences, while Green Lantern summons the recently deceased Atom to help her defeat the Question. The others are no match for Wonder Woman or Batman. All of the attacked heroes get information from their would-be assassins about where their orders came from. Independently, they arrive at a warehouse, Atom in Green Lantern's stead. They see a hologram call. Atom recognises them, Shadow Thief, the First Lady and Senator Manson, admitting to the attack. The four decide to become the new JLA, with Atom admitting he probably won't be around but Green Lantern will take his place. So this was the last issue in Phase 2 and it leaves the world in balance. Ultra Humanite is still overwhelmingly in control of the world, with most of the heroes defeated. A slightly odd way to end the arc, but with this new JLA made up of the most OP characters and Batman, would they have enough to defeat the Ultra Humanite? I look forward to reading more about that. Spoilers, we won't. Now, a brief interlude as we stray slightly from the tangent line to mention Mark Waid's Kingdom from 1998 because we are being thorough. Towards the end of the story, where Gog had been killing Superman in new and inventive ways, we see into hyper time. The heroes can see other dimensions through it, and you can clearly see the likes of Flash and Joker, but this is one way and no interaction. That's it, told you it was brief. It's then quite a break for the Tangent universe until they show up again in Infinite Crisis in 2006. You can see Alexander Luthor redirecting fuel from Earth 1 to Earth 2, As that happens, you see the Earth 2 Superman scream in agony with Supermen from other universes alongside him. Next to him is none other than Harvey Dent, looking great in his wizard robes. As the Earths all appear in the sky, we see snapshots of the different heroes fighting the Cataclysm. On Earth 97, this is actually the first time it's been called Earth 97 in print, Green Lantern asks the heroes to follow her light if they want to live. At the end, two boys find a Green Lantern on a beach. So what's happened to the heroes? Hopefully we'll find out. Next up is Ion, written by Tangent writer Ron Mars. The Tangent storyline starts in issue 9 of this series, as we see two boys with a Green Lantern, the very same two boys and the very same lantern found at the end of Infinite Crisis. And the boys are examining it in their treehouse when suddenly it emits a blinding green light. This energy source draws in Kyle Rayner, who at this point is called Iron, and finds a destroyed tree and remains of a treehouse. He also finds Leah Nelson and Arthur Thompson, aka The Flash and Atom. The usual hero-on-hero violence happens, but Iron is not a match for the pair from Earth 97 who knock him out before Tangent's Green Lantern shows. Now, you might notice the dialogue in this fight is really weird, like really clunky. For example, this random line where Flash declares, "'Cause lasers use light." There are no lasers here, but this isn't some bad writing, and it is deliberate. All of these lines were used in the original comics. Kyle ends up in the bleed, presumably sent here by Green Lantern. With the two kids who found the lantern, he defends them from monsters before finding Captain Atom, who helps Kyle piece together that the lantern acted as a gateway, and Atom agrees to help the three out of the bleed. Back on Earth 1, just as Tangent Green Lantern is about to resurrect Joker, Manhunter and Spectre, Kyle bursts forth from her with the brothers. A 3-for-3 swap. Back safely, Iron gives the lantern to Guy Gardner for safekeeping, but our Tangent heroes are once again sent back to the ether, with us not really knowing what's happened to them. In Justice League of America 16 from 2008, a couple of thieves are looking through potential valuables. Turns out the storage locker belongs to none other than Guy Gardner. And what do the thieves come across? They come across the Green Lantern. The Green Lantern Kyle had asked Guy to look after. Suddenly, with another burst of green light, where luckless Al the thief once stood was Tangent's Atom. The Justice League send Red Arrow, John Stewart and Black Canary to go investigate their strange reports from the police. Black Canary and Red Arrow end up sparring with Atom before Roy Harper knocks him out. Atom's not really had any major wins despite his power levels. John and the others are examining the lantern, having figured out that it had swapped the thief for the Atom, and were trying to work out how to reverse it when the lantern drags Atom back to Earth 97. Atom wasn't the only one brought through though, so was the Flash, Leah Nelson. The other heroes are left none the wiser about her presence on their world. A few months after that Justice League issue, we have the start of Final Crisis, which establishes the DC 52 multiverse where Earth 97 becomes Earth 9. The Tangent universe gets a brief mention in the series Countdown as well, where Earth 9's monitor pipes up to mention Green Lantern has this ability to transport things across dimensions. Enough of all that continuity and multiverse nonsense, let's get into Phase 3, Superman's Reign. So unlike the previous phases, 3 is one story. Instead of separate issues focusing on different characters, this was one 12-part issue storyline written by Dan Jurgens from 2008. It's quite a different world since we last saw it. 10 years have gone by and that world has been transformed into a dystopian one, with Superman in charge. Laurie Lamaris has just done a 10-year stretch in prison and finds herself jobless and forced into an indoctrination program. The public are informed over broadcasts on reduction in crime while their overlord watches over. It's raining too, so you know it's bad. On sunny Earth 1 though, Flash is battling Mirror Master, who opens up windows into different dimensions, bringing forth the Flash from the Crime Syndicate of America to fight Earth 1's Flash. Unluckily for Mirror Master, he also allows Leah Nelson, Tangent's Flash, to come through too. Sporting a new perm, she easily defeats the two villains. Leah tells Wally that she's been stranded on Earth 1 for weeks, but thankfully Wally remembers Red Arrow and Black Canary's encounter with Atom from that JLA issue 16, and that there is a lantern that might help Leah get back to her home. Just as they and John Stewart are examining the lantern, the Green Lantern back on Earth 9, who looks minutes away from death's door, calls to the lantern across the multiverse. With that call, the Flashes and John are whisked away. Back on Earth 9, Manhunter and Spectre are breaking into the Global Security Center looking for Atom. They find him as a prisoner, starved and slim. That's issue 1, putting all the players into their places. But at the end of each issue, there is a bonus small storyline called History Lesson, written by Ron Mars. These follow an unknown man who is a prolific hacker as he is groomed by an unknown agency to give up secrets. These secrets are presented as a history lesson, retelling what was in previous issues, but also adding new bits of info, like how Nightwing pushed the tech advance and helped set up a colony on the moon. We'll drop in and out of those history lessons. Back to the main story though, and on the Lantern's return to the Tangent universe, Green Lantern is restored to her younger self. Just behind are the arrival of the Flashes and John Stewart. Travelling across dimensions to straighten Leah's hair. They arrive in a graveyard protected by Lantern's magic, making them invisible to Superman. Much to their despair, Green Lantern does not know how to return John and Wally back to Earth 1. Learning about their new home, John and Flash find Earth 9 very unsettling and Big Brother-like. Building on that unsettled state, Green Lantern raises Mary Marvel, aka 1/3 of the Joker, from the dead. Mary tells her story about how the Secret Six tried to take on Superman, but she was made an example of and killed. It never really explains whether the Secret Six were aware that Joker was 3 people, but we can move on. Let's check in on Superman. All countries answer to his word, and we see this in action as Superman tells the Saudis that they have to give up their oil for his environmental decrees. Harvey notes that the Saudis have made enough money to last 100,000 people 1,000 lifetimes each. It will make no difference to their country as they've left their people impoverished for generations, and he will not stand in to protect the Saudis if the people rose up. See, the best villains always have an aspect to them that you can agree with. Superman interrupts the discussion as he senses the heroes are after him again, with company this time. We get this weird panel where the Tangent heroes are pictured, but Wally and John are represented by their symbol and fist respectively. Now, Harvey's powers can't see them properly. Because of their strong branding, he can see that. We get a glimpse into one of Laurie Lamaris's re-education classes where society's naughtier citizens were being taught about recent history. Suddenly though, the lecturer changes form in front of Laurie, revealing themselves to be none other than Hex. And speaking of history lessons, we get another at the end of this issue focused on the Metal Men. What is far more interesting is both the agent and the man being questioned give their names. The agent is Jennifer Hayden, who is normally known in other comics as Jade, daughter of Alan Scott. The man is Guy Gardner, with his online alias being Detective Chimp. They drive into an underground tunnel. In the Global Security Center, the Tangent version of Jade and Obsidian attack Spectre as he is trying to free Atom. It's very hard to keep track of Jade and Obsidian's loyalties. Back in the graveyard though, Green Lantern learns of Manhunter and Spectre's attempt to rescue Atom, and the Flashes go to help, making short work of Jade and Obsidian. Joker and John Stewart follow the Flashes, making their way through the compound before releasing the emaciated Atom. Superman appears though. Before they can escape, he kills Joker again. Manhunter, Spectre and the Flashes converge on Superman and John, but Green Lantern whisks them away before Superman can attack them. He does still hold John hostage though. In the continuing history lesson, just as Guy and Jennifer reach the end of the tunnel, we learn that the Superman killed the Ultra Humanite, his mental energies ripping Ultra Humanite in a battle on the moon. On Earth 1, the JLA, looking for their missing comrades, create a machine to track the Green Lantern's beam across dimensions, picking up a faint signal, strong enough to find them. Hex and Laurie take a charming walk through a sewer where Hex convinces Laurie to take up the fight against Superman despite her many reservations. At his swanky pad of solitude in Switzerland, Superman slaps John about with small bits of furniture whilst lecturing him on the poverty in Earth 1. Finally though, we get the JLA arrive on Earth 9. Batman, Black Lightning, Black Canary and Hal swirl into existence, but they are drawn to Tangent's Green Lantern's power rather than to John's. As the heroes get to know each other, a surprise is waiting for them. the recently rescued Atom isn't really him. The real one is locked away with Superman. The one in the graveyard is actually Power Girl. A small history interlude, and we pick up an important nugget of info. Lola, Harvey's girlfriend, didn't survive the Miracle solution he gave her, and Guy thinks this is when Harvey changed. The base Jennifer is showing Guy around is covered in Nightwing symbols. Not a huge surprise that. Back to the graveyard, and Manhunter lies dead at the hands of Power Girl. She then takes on the rest of the heroes, with her powers of energy manipulation proving too much for the new team. Even Spectre can't best her. Green Lantern and Batman agree on a tactical retreat as they struggle to deal with her. Pooch, Batman, Green Lantern and Spectre get away, but the others are left and captured by Power Girl. Elsewhere, in another magically protected place, Hex shows Laurie his hiding place. Here they learn Green Lantern's plan failed, but others have joined the fight. Out of Hex's orb of revelation appears Sir William, Tangent Earth's Batman. Power Girl returns to Superman, and we are shown that they are a couple. Harvey psychically interrogates John and learns of the overwhelming number of heroes and villains that Earth 1 has. Harvey sees this as a threat to his own supremacy and takes John's ring to use as a weapon. The fleeing heroes arrive at Spectre's place, where they are introduced to Gunther Ganz, reduced to some floating polymer in a tube after Superman ripped him apart. Spectre and Plastic Man try to convince Batman to overthrow Superman, but he's not won over. He wants to do his own investigation and breaks into Superman's spy headquarters to speak to Halo and find some answers. Batman is shocked to find out that Superman is Harvey Dent. Halo gives Batman a rundown of the last 10 years, but it's nothing we don't know already, except that Halo doesn't know what happened to Lola, Harvey's ex. Alarms go off, moving the issue along. At Spectre's place, Sir William appears to tell them to team up and leave. They track down Joker and Hex, but Laurie refuses to be Joker ever again. She still wants to help though. Meanwhile, at the Spy HQ, Batman is doing a reasonable job getting through the guards, but he meets the avatar of his Tangent counterpart, who wades in, carving up security. They manage to flee to Sir William's House of Secrets and meet up with the rest of the gang and form the Outsiders. Manhunter is seemingly resurrected, but it is Laurie under the mask. Seems a bit disrespectful to me, the body is still warm. The Outsiders attack Superman's base, but Supes isn't there. He and Power Girl travel to Earth 1 using Green Lantern's rings and Orion's powers. Yeah, Orion just turns up at this point, don't worry about it. While the Outsiders fight their way through Superman's citadel, Sir William helps Ganz get back to his form. The reformed Plastic Man helps open the prison where all the heroes from both worlds are being kept. On Earth 1, Power Girl and Superman are shocked to see the levels of poverty and deprivation. They take time to feed and house a woman and child before attracting a crowd in need of support. Before Superman could make any reasonable improvement to these people's lives, the Debbie Downer status quo protector Earth 1 Superman shows up with boob window Power Girl. Superman and Superman argue. Harvey is unimpressed with Clark's lack of vision or input over the world's many problems. When Harvey suggests that he might go fix some of them, Clark puts in some boundaries. But Harvey answers to no one and uses his telekinetic powers to smash bits of building and a bus into his counterpart. Just as the fight is breaking out, Orion teleports the Tangent contingent to Washington, looking for the seat of power. Clark and Kara catch up to them, attacking the White House, but are unable to stop Harvey using his powers to blow up the White House and the Capitol. Now we're on to issue 9, and time has moved on. While the heroes on Earth 9 look for ways to defeat Superman, things on Earth 1 look a bit grimmer. Every major political building on the planet has been razed, and every country's leader is presumed dead or missing. We learn they are alive as Tangent Supes gathers them all and tells them to bend the knee. It doesn't go down very well. Harvey leaves them with a threat of death if they don't comply. By this point, the JLA have worked out the world leaders being held on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific and go to investigate, sending Vixen. Yeah, things are pretty desperate. Vixen was having a bit of a minor revival at the time and had her own limited series, Vixen Return of the Lion, the same year. Anyway, after she goes off grid, the rest of the JLA go. Tangent Supes is there waiting though, and he lets off a nuke, believing it will ensure their destruction. On Earth 9, Batman, of the Bruce Wayne variety, had encouraged the others to follow his hunch, and they follow him to discover that Lola Dent is alive and well. More than that, she has all of Harvey's powers too, but Bats deduces that she drew the line at eradicating governments, hence the split, and that Harvey allowed her to live. Bruce pleads for her to join their cause. To no one's real surprise, Earth 1's heroes survived the blast. Guy got a shield up around himself and Kara, and they find the unconscious but okay Superman at the bottom of the ocean. The Outsiders combine the Lantern's rings and powers in an effort to establish a connection with Earth 1. The Atom finally does something useful and provides the final boost. This connection pulls all the heroes through to Earth 1 via Guy's ring, bringing all the players, including Lola, into the same place. Oblivious to this latest development, Harvey sends a message to the world to disarm immediately and for all superpower beings to cease activities. He knows this will be ignored and assembles villains to fight alongside him. We've not checked into the history lessons for a while, as they've mainly been retellings of the stories we've covered previously, but there is now an important change. Guy is fed up of giving over information to Jennifer and says it has to come to an end. Jennifer is confused, then horrified, as Guy Gardner transforms into a hideous mass. He is Clayface, sent by Harvey, and he kills the bodyguard to Jennifer. The Tangent heroes like Earth 1. Where they had to hide, JLA are out in the open. Where they've only tasted defeat, JLA only accept victory. They are boosted by this alliance, and they all rush to take on Harvey and his army of villains. Vixen escapes her captors long enough to send off a signal to JLA, alerting them of her and the leader's whereabouts. The heroes attack, clashing with the assorted villains acting as a defence, and spare a moment for Scarecrow, who had a very bad 5 minutes, first being beaten by Vixen, only to then be matched up against Power Girl. Harvey has a trick up his sleeve though, and it's a big one. He'd been keeping a secret for some time. He never killed Ultra Humanite, only kept him in stasis, imprisoned. Now he awakens who he refers to as his old friend to help subjugate Earth 1. Back in Nightwing's underground base, Clayface finishes the job and kills Jennifer. He messages Harvey to say it's done, who responds with, "If I'm forced to depart, you will assume control." Morphing into Jennifer, Clayface asserts he won't allow Earth to be compromised in Superman's absence. Back to the final showdown, and the attack on Harvey goes badly, with Lanterns and Black Canary down quickly. Scarecrow is down too, much to no one's surprise here. Harvey had been busy though, taking over Russia, stealing their nukes and using Ultra Humanite to wipe out electronics across the globe, just as it had done on Earth 9. As always though, Batman, the new money version, has a plan. The heroes have teamed up with the villains to take down Harvey. The likes of Lex Luthor don't appreciate a new overlord. Even with this shaky alliance, Harvey barely breaks a sweat against the heroes directly. Old-timey Batman struggles to maintain his connection across the dimensions, but does manage to wound the Ultra Humanite. Sadly, this was at the cost of his own life. This wounding of Ultra Humanite gives an opening for Superman to join in, finishing it off with an uppercut. At the same time, Batman takes out Orion, meaning Harvey and Power Girl are stuck there, unable to travel back to Earth 9. In a display of pettiness, Harvey threatens to turn the whole world to ash, but Lola shows up, distracting him long enough for Supes to sucker punch him. Lex disarms the nukes, disabling any remaining threat. The Lanterns combine their powers to send the Tangent villains away, locking them in Ultra Humanite's old prison. The Green Lanterns combine once again to send the heroes home. They have a world to rebuild. A nice story all in all. It was a little hard to buy Harvey's motives for going after Earth 1, but if you ignore all of that, it was fun. There was a couple of issues with pacing, it took a while to get everyone into the right places, and the whole is it better to be in a world that's safe and provides resources versus Jon Stewart's version of freedom was a bit weak, but we're not here for that. Not today. My big problem is what happens to the JLA who formed to defeat Ultra Humanite? Where is Wonder Woman? Why did Batman and Green Lantern split from this team? And is Clayface now in charge of Nightwing? Or even the world? And what happens to the Tangent world? There's going to be huge power vacuums and civil war for years in most countries. So Reign of Superman was officially the last Tangent line comic, but the characters have carried on showing up intermittently. Next up was in 2010 in JLA number 50. Tangent's Green Lantern shows up, suddenly appearing in front of Supergirl and Jesse Quick, asking for help as her world is dead. Lantern explains that her world was attacked by the Crime Syndicate of America, spelt with a K. In their universe, Alexander Luthor had created a doomsday device that would slowly destroy their world. They realised that by going to another dimension and transferring dark matter, they could save their world. The Crime Syndicate of America killed a few unnamed heroes from the Tangent universe, and there is a confusing info dump from Green Lantern. But the short of it was, the Tangent world was all but destroyed and the Syndicate were now on this world. And this obviously cues the Syndicate attack. The JLA hold them off and protect Green Lantern. The Syndicate try to resurrect Luthor, but courtesy of some double crossing, create something much worse, Omega Man. The JLA struggle to control Omega Man, but Jade casts a huge shield around them and the city to stop his powers sweeping out into the real world. We're not going to go into all the details about it, but the sides are drawn, words are said and punches thrown. The main thing of note is that Green Lantern isn't involved at all during the middle act, with Batman keeping her to the sidelines. He secretly had her resurrect Alexander Luthor though. Luthor creates a machine sending Omega Man back into the multiverse and sending good energy, Luthor's words, to the infected world, essentially saving Green Lantern's world. And with that, Green Lantern returns to Earth 9. We next see the Tangent universe in Convergence. In the Convergence series, Telos, a Brainiac subordinate, is informing the captive cities that they will be pitted against one another. You can see Tangent, Superman, Green Lantern, Atom and Flash among the many different dimensions pictured. But that's the only look in they see in the main series. However, Earth 9 has a bigger role in the 2-issue Convergence Justice League of America series. The Tangent Secret Six are pitted against a recently repowered Justice League Detroit. Interestingly, there is a Laurie Lamaris Joker and Manhunter is back somehow, but check out the chin on the Atom here. Taking out the big three hitters in Martian Manhunter, Zatanna and Aquaman immediately with a stasis field, the Secret Six easily deal with the remaining heroes, but the Justice League manage to escape. In round 2 though, the Justice League buy enough time for Sue Dibney, of all people, to release the trio in the stasis field, and Zatanna sends the Tangent heroes back to their own world, so let's call that one a draw. Dan Abnett's Convergence Flash has another encounter too, as Barry Allen in Gotham is set to fight Tangent's Harvey Dent, Superman, seemingly no longer a prisoner. What happens is quite an interesting conversation between the two as they try to figure it all out. Harvey's arrogance though runs Barry up the wrong way and the Flash sucker punches Superman. But Harvey doesn't want to fight and has to resort to psychically forcing Barry to stop. The Flash is about to give up before Harvey stops him from saying that he yields, as that would end the battle resulting in the destruction of Gotham. Harvey pieces together bits from Flash's mind to figure out that he is the key to stopping all of this and returning the different peoples and cities to whence they came. He yields to Flash and disappears. This is a great take on Superman in my opinion. Abnett dials back on the malevolence shown in Reign of Superman and adds a bit more in the intelligence department. Harvey knows he can beat Flash, but only Flash can save everyone. And there are still more heroes from Tangent Comics who make it into the Convergence event, this time in Marv Wolfman's Convergence, the New Teen Titans. Like we've seen before, 2 cities get matched up to battle each other. This time it is Gotham and the New Teen Titans versus Central City and the Doom Patrol. This Doom Patrol has all its members, presumably having been pulled from a time before they were mostly soul merged, and are still looking to save their future. This means they are willing to risk the lives of millions to save a future of billions. But on paper, this team are vastly outpowered by the Teen Titans. When the cities are transported within touching distance of each other, Rampage scans and locates a power source that could help transport them back to their time and reality. The power source is where Beast Boy and Cyborg are working, and the Doom Patrol attack. The teams spar, but neither really wanting to do any damage to each other when Doom Patrols suddenly decide to retreat. They had discovered the power source, but had not expected it to come in the form of a weakened Cyborg, who was on death's door due to a lack of, essentially, spare parts in the domed city. Whilst regrouping, most of the team discuss potential plans, but Firehawk reaches out to Nightwing independently. The two meet up and get to know one another, laying down their cards. For some reason though, the rest of Doom Patrol, instead of wondering where Lords went, go and attack the Titans and kidnap Vic. They hook him up and start to drain him of his precious Promethium. This drain allows the Titans to locate Cyborg through the Promethium's radiation, and another fight breaks out. The ending is a bit odd. Cyborg, despite being tortured by them, decides that the Doom Patrol aren't bad people and tells everyone if they listen to him, he can fix it so everyone survives. With no further explanation, Cyborg presumably does something. There's an earthquake and suddenly the Doom Patrol are gone. Anyway, one to avoid in my opinion. A lot of weird romantic moments that don't feel necessary in a two-part story and just kind of draw you out of a scene completely. Like when Nightwing and Starfire kiss in the middle of a fight. More importantly, they distract from the true heroes, Doom Patrol, who sadly seem a bit mischaracterised. Deirdre is a monster throughout, and we have to be told multiple times that these are the good guys, because Wolfman certainly doesn't show it in the story. So some decent representation for the Tangent Universe in 2015 with Convergence, and it also manages to crop up in Multiversity the same year in the Deluxe Edition, with Earth 9 shown on the map of the universe and a small excerpt about the major heroes. Like Convergence, it ignores the latest happenings, i.e. Superman imprisoned, and just describes their powers and personas. And that's that. All the tangent occurrences that I know of, except that's not true. It's taken a decade, but the Tangent Universe is back in Green Lantern Dark by Tate Bromble. It's perhaps no surprise that Green Lantern has been the most versatile character for Tangent because of her ability to act as a conduit across dimensions. This series has the story back on Earth 9. Things have changed a lot as the world is plunged into eternal darkness with all the heroes gone except for Green Lantern, who holds back the hordes. Even this Green Lantern is different though, changed from the more passive, aloof character we've seen before. This one is young and unsure. We'll leave that series there for now as it is ongoing, but check it out if you can, particularly if you like Something is Killing the Children. Werther Del Ederer adds their terrifying illustrations to make it Tangent's darkest outing yet. So that's everything. Let me know what I've missed, I'm sure I've missed something. And let me know who you'd like to see resurrected for a series or a cameo. It's been great seeing Green Lantern, she's such a great character, but let's see more of Joker. Let's give Flash the story she deserves, and let's give Atom something to do.